Venus and Pluto in hard aspect relationship is a very interesting combination. The textbook definition of Venus and Pluto is fanaticism in love, or overwhelm in love. And the reason for this is because Venus is our universal significatrix of love in general, and Pluto is our universal significator of abnormal growth and abnormal functioning. Therefore, when we have Venus and Pluto in hard aspect relationship, it can create a set of circumstances of abnormal functioning within our love life. Or in other words, it can create circumstances of extremes within our love life. So Venus and Pluto in hard aspect combination is something that we oftentimes find in the charts of people who absolutely allow themselves to get overwhelmed by love. And resultantly, they also find themselves in very overwhelming love circumstances. When we refer to overwhelming love, one of the things that I think of is this deep and primal urge to connect with someone romantically. And this urge can be so deep and so innate when a person has Venus-Pluto that it completely overrides their larger intellectual processes as far as being in love is concerned. Because once that part of them that loves is ignited, they cannot think of anything else other than that love as a means of fulfilling the hunger that they find themselves experiencing. Pluto is also a powerful planet as far as the notion of hunger is concerned. So Venus and Pluto in hard aspect combination can represent hunger of love. And when a person has Venus-Pluto, they can sometimes find themselves in a situation where they feel starved or deprived of love, regardless of what the realities of their romantic landscape are. And as a result of that, they always find themselves searching for love, yearning for love, and wanting to go as deeply and as quickly into love as possible with the people who they find themselves interacting with romantically. We can oftentimes find ourselves in love circumstances that aren't necessarily the healthiest and that aren't necessarily the smartest as far as what we're doing with our life is concerned. Venus and Pluto is also a combination that we find where people make humongous, egregious mistakes as far as their love life is concerned, because this combination causes people to once again be so deeply yearning for love that sometimes they overlook all of the red flags that exist within the landscape of their love experience. Now, those are the challenges of Venus and Pluto. However, from a positive perspective, Venus and Pluto can allow a person to have a deep sense of loyalty. And that loyalty can be loyalty to their family, loyalty to their friends, and loyalty to any group that they may find themselves a part of. Venus and Pluto in hard aspect combination has to do with an unwavering commitment to the things that we desire and an unwavering commitment to the things that we love. So when we find a person with Venus and Pluto within their chart, that can be a person who is very intense when it comes to their desire to experience the fullest manifestation of the things that they've committed their lives to. And so if a person has Venus-Pluto and they choose to exercise that down the route of their family connections, these could be people who are deeply loyal to their families, and they want to carry the theme of family to its highest expression. Very often, we find Venus-Pluto within the charts of artists who can do nothing else other than create art. Their entire lives become an extension of their artistic experience. They live their lives as a work of art. And to this end, Venus-Pluto can be a powerful combination for people who desire to work creatively within the world. On the note of working creatively, when a person has Venus-Pluto, they have the ability to articulate through their art some of the deepest, darkest landscapes of the human experience, and they also have the ability to do that in a way that is deeply, profoundly moving and beautiful. And so, Venus and Pluto in hard aspects combination can be something that we find within the charts of people who have the ability to make art that might cause our stomachs to turn at one level, but at another level, we can also feel a deep sense of awe and a deep sense of reverence when we are beholding the artistic creations of these people, because their art has the ability to speak to something that is very primal and very human within all of us. Venus and Pluto is also a combination that exists within the larger mythographic landscape of our collective unconscious, because Venus and Pluto in hard aspect combination is the specific combination that tells the story of the abduction or the assault of Persephone. Now, for those of us who have studied mythology, we know that Persephone was left by her mother in a field where she was picking flowers one day, and that Hades, or Pluto, the god of the underworld, who was also essentially her uncle, saw her in this field, and he was stricken by the beauty of her. And as a result of that, he wanted Persephone for his own, and he wanted to turn Persephone into his prisoner bride. So within the story of Persephone, there is this very primal understanding that we have within our collective unconsciousness of assault, abuse, domestic violence, all of these things that foundationally shake us to our human core when it comes to love. And Venus-Pluto in hard aspect combination, it oftentimes corresponds with the atrocities of love. Now, when we see any combination within a birth chart, we need to be mindful that no singular combination by itself has the ability to articulate the fullness of a person's lived experience. Therefore, if you see Venus and Pluto within a person's birth chart, you, nor any astrologer that exists, has the ability to speak about that in terms of abuse. And the reason for that is because if a chart is going to say that specific story, or any story at all, it's going to say it in numerous ways. And that is why, as we strive to be good astrologers, we have to make sure that one of the foundational ways in which we're doing that is by finding as much corroborating information in a chart as possible to support the story that we're desiring to share with our clients. So while Venus and Pluto in hard aspect combination does have to do with atrocities in love, it also has to do with many other things, and normally a chart will give indication as to which direction we should be interpreting any hard aspect that we find within a person's chart. As I previously mentioned, Venus-Pluto in hard aspect combination has to do with extremes within a person's love life. And we oftentimes find Venus-Pluto manifesting within the charts of people who are living a very powerfully sexual life, which means they are constantly engaged in sexual activity because that is a very primal hunger that they find themselves faced with within this lifetime. And at the same time, we find Venus-Pluto just as frequently manifesting within the charts of people who have chosen to be celibate and who've chosen to cut themselves off from sexual fulfillment as a result of either having had some very difficult experience within their sexual life, and therefore they're wanting to turn that part of themselves off entirely, or simply because they're in a season of their life where they feel no sexual urgency and no sexual attraction to another at all. However, when Venus and Pluto is manifesting, this idea of extremes within a person's expression of romance can oftentimes be the case, where they're either extremely fulfilling their romantic desires, or they find themselves completely numb to any form of romantic interest whatsoever. One of the things I love the most about Venus-Pluto is that it has to do with a very deep and evocative sense of beauty. So very often when a person has Venus-Pluto within their charts, they have a deep sense of the beautiful, and they also have a very deep sense of how to create beauty within the world. And very often when a person has Venus-Pluto, one of the things that is most important for them is their ability to create beauty within the lives of others. This is a part of why we sometimes find people with Venus-Pluto working in fields such as marriage counseling or relationship counseling, because the person with Venus-Pluto has the ability to stand in a painful experience that exists between couples, and they also have the ability to bring those couples back to each other if that's something that they desire to do. However, Venus-Pluto people can also work within the marriage counseling field from the perspective of helping people consciously and compassionately sever their relationship ties from each other. In all cases, the Venus-Pluto person has the ability to navigate the challenges that exist within love and create a sense of healing for others. Whether that healing is healing that separates people from each other, or if that healing is healing that brings those people closer together, Venus-Pluto in hard aspects has the ability to facilitate some of the deepest healing that can occur within a person's love life.